So, in the last class, we looked at various defects that are possible in a given solid material or a crystalline material, and those are maybe point defects, line defects, surface defects, or volume defects. And under point defects, we have seen that the point defects may be classified into various types as vacancies, interstitial compositional defects. Under compositional defects, we have substitutional defects and also interstitial defects. Later, we have seen the electronic defects also. And afterwards, we have discussed a Schottky defect. A Schottky defect is simply missing of anion and cation in a ionic crystal or missing of a atom in atomic crystal. So because in atomic crystal, if atom is missing, it will not produce any charge disturbance or charge neutrality problem. Whereas in ionic crystals, if a cation is missing, to compensate the charge neutrality, an anion also will miss. Now today, we will look at Frankel defects. Frankel defects. Frankel defects are interstitials, meaning that suppose say if I take a regular atomic crystal or maybe ionic crystal in this manner, this is a crystalline material having atoms regularly spaced like this. And in the earlier class, we have seen that these are regular atoms at lattice sites. These are lattice points, and these are also called as lattice sites, and the atoms are occupying the regular lattice sites, and we have regular periodic arrangement. And this place, empty space, is called as void, or we also called as interstitial C. Interstitial location. Now, the Frankel defect is a interstitial one, meaning that if I extend this by one more one, suppose say during crystallization or maybe during heat treatment or due to thermal energy, some of the atoms, suppose say this atom I am taking, this atom has missed from its regular site. This is the regular site. Atom has missed or ion has missed. The missed atom or missed anion or missed cation or maybe an atom, instead of located at the regular site, it may be shifted to some other place. Suppose say this is the interstitial position, the atom has shifted here. This is I am representing is a shifted atom. So now we have a vacancy and an interstitial C. So the atom has moved from regular site to interstitial one. When it is moved, you should see that and also understand that when atom is coming to interstitial location is generally very small in size, thereby this atom slightly replaces or readjusts the surrounding atoms. Therefore, there is a stress or a strain nearby these interstitial Cs as the interstitial atom is replacing them. So when they are replaced, we have here a interstitial atom and also a vacancy. So the pair of interstitial C and vacancy, this is called vacancy. Vacancy. This is interstitial. This is interstitial C. This is vacancy. A pair of interstitial C and vacancy together, we call this as a Frankel defect. This pair is called as Frankel defect. So draw the figure. And what is the difference between Schottky defect and Frankel defect now? Can anybody tell the difference?
Sir, in Schottky defect, the atoms are missing, sir. Cation or anion, they'll miss completely. They'll not be found. But in Frankel defect, they'll be displaced. They'll be in somewhere between the voids.
Yeah. And also in Schottky defect, it is a pair of cation, anion missing. Here it is a pair of interstitial C and vacancy. And as you said, they are disappearing in Schottky defects. There is a charge neutrality problem there. But here there is no charge neutrality problem. Even ion is moving from here to here, ion is here only. Therefore, we don't face any charge neutrality problems in Frankel defects. Generally, Schottky defects are shown by ionic crystals, and Frankel defects are shown by closed packed metallic structures. Closed packed metallic structures are showing Frankel defects. Whereas alkali halides are generally ionic solids, are shown, okay, they show Schottky defects. But both a Frankel defect or a Schottky defect, both are temperature dependent. In general, defects are temperature dependent. As you increase the temperature, the thermal vibration increases and the atom vibrates from its mean position more and more, and the supplied thermal energy is large and more than the binding energy or the equal to defect formation energy, then that atom will go away from the lattice locations. Thereby, the defects will increase. So we have to now see how the defects will vary with the temperature. Okay, what is the relation between the number of defects in a crystal and how they change with the temperature? So for that, we will do here now. This is the concept of Frankel defect. So again, I suppose that these are the lattice atoms or ions. I may have capital number of atoms or ions in the lattice, and these are called interstitials or void places. I have ni number of void places. These are defects. These defects are small n, number of defects at a given temperature. If you want to calculate how many Frankel defects are there, you should know capital N, and you should also know the interstitial locations, and thereby you can find a relation between the number of Frankel defects with these two with respect to variation in temperature. Now, today we will derive an expression for concentration of Schottky defects in a given crystal. So shall I rub off this figure?
No, sir.
Take a note of it. Then we start here. Concentration concentration, or it is nothing but number of defects per unit volume. Okay, concentration of Schottky defects. Schottky defect. How many are there in a given crystal? We'll derive it. And here I am repeating the same diagram which we have drawn in the earlier class to show a Schottky defect as a pair of missing anions and cations. So you have to write these as bigger in size because I am taking here a ionic crystal. Ionic crystal generally show these Schottky defects. Therefore, I am writing these as bigger circles, and also, okay, this is also big circle. And if you come here, I have a circle here. Here I have a larger circle, and I do have here a one, bigger one, and we have seen that if a cation is missing somewhere, anion also will miss. Suppose here anion is missing. Somewhere I'll write it as this is the missing one, this is the missing. And this pair we have represented as Schottky defect. Schottky defect. So to derive an expression for concentration of Schottky defect, I suppose that let there will be n number of ions. N number of ion means that don't say that n by 2 is cations and n by 2 is anions. I am saying that total number of okay, ions are n. So therefore, because if I write for Schottky defect, one cation and one anion should miss. When they are missing, they form a Schottky defect. Yes, 75, unmute yourself. Roll number 75, unmute yourself. So now, how do I get it? In general, I told you that these defects are formed during the crystallization process or maybe due to thermal energy. Therefore, here, to remove a cation and an anion pair, you need to supply certain energy to the crystal. The amount of energy you supply to create a cation defect and cation-anion pair defect, that energy will be taken by the crystal and one anion-cation pair will miss, and whatever the energy you supply to the crystal is now taken by the crystal, and it is the internal energy of the crystal. As you are creating more and more defects, the internal energy of the system or the crystal material also increases. Therefore, now I am assuming that there are n number of ions, or we say, then I suppose a small n number of Schottky defects. Schottky defects. These are the number of Schottky defects. Now I suppose EP, energy required to create a Schottky defect. A Schottky defect. So you have to supply some energy, and that energy, supplied energy, is taken by the crystal, hence its internal energy is increasing. And one anion cation is missing. So to miss or to remove anions and cations, you supply energy. That supplied energy increases the internal energy. Therefore, if I have n Schottky defects, means that n anions and n cations are missing, because a Schottky defect is a pair. N anions should miss, n cations miss. And therefore, if I want to calculate the total energy, I write the total energy for n defects. I write F, free energy required to create, or say total energy for n defects is n into EP, because energy required for each pair, each of these P means pair, is EP. Each Schottky effect is EP. There are now n defects in it, and therefore NP. This energy, okay, this energy is equal to, or is equal to internal energy of the internal energy. So I write internal energy U is equal to N into EP. Call this as equation number 1. Okay. So the point at which you started creating Schottky defects, first with 1 Schottky defect, 2, 3, 4, and maybe anything, I started that as internal energy. This internal energy is because of defects only I am taking. So U is equal to N into EP is the total. Did you understand why I am multiplying by N?
Due to n defects.
Due to n defects. Each will have energy is equal to EP. Follow? Now, the problem of solving this concentration is, I have a pair here. This pair may be somewhere here also. There is a possibility. The pair may be created somewhere here, because this is entire crystal. If I take it, it can be created anywhere. And therefore, there are NCN ways to select the atoms at different positions. That means this is the first, suppose say second, third, like this. This may be here, or this may be here, or this may be here also. So, but total there are n. Out of n, I have to choose only n pairs. Therefore, I can choose NCN ways. Thereby, I write here the number of ways of creating an anion vacancies. Can you tell how many ways are there to create anion vacancies? I now suppose that take the crystal as it is, and there are no vacancies at all. We supply energy and create one vacancy, one anion vacancy. I am not talking about cations. Later we will see cations. I can remove this cation first, or I can remove this, or I can remove this. So when I am removing these cations, there is a possibility of this many ways. So therefore, this is nothing but the number of ways of arranging the missing cations. Therefore, any cation I can take. Hence, I am writing this as W1, the number of ways of creating cation vacancies. This I'll write it as how many this? Can you tell what is NCl?
N factorial by n capital N minus small n factorial into n factorial.
N factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial. This is the number of ways of creating this. Okay. So, but you see, I have n factorial. This n factorial, small n factorial also, why this is there means that this can be here or this can be somewhere or this can be anywhere. But in general, if one vacancy has happened here, if I count this as one vacancy, one pair of vacancy, if that is happened somewhere also instead of here, that will be 1. So anyway, we are counting only number of vacancies, pair of vacancies created. That's why we have the arrangement. You can arrange them anywhere. How many ways you can arrange? N factorials we can. So this is the way in which you can arrange anions. Similarly, I write this as equation number 2. And then I'll take the number of ways of creating cation vacancies. Cation vacancies. How many are there? Anybody? W2.
NCl.
NCl. So n factorial by again n minus n factorial into n factorial. This many will get it. Call this as 2. Okay. So we have this, that means the probability of having n cation vacancies is proportional to this, and probability of having n anion vacancies is proportional to this, because you know that probability is a term which generally used to represent how many chances are there, how many to have an anion vacancy or a cation vacancy. And you just write that if an event is there, we say that tossing a coin, how many ways are there to get a head or tail? Suppose if I toss one time, I may get head or tail. That is the outcomes. Outcomes are 2 are there. But at a time, if head is on, you don't get tail. Therefore, the event occurrence is only 1. Hence, when a coin is tossed, the probability of getting head is 1 by 2. Similarly, also for the tail. So we have 1 by 2 probability, 1 by 2 probability, where 2 is the total number of events. Thereby, remember that the probability of occurrence of an event is proportional to the total number of events. And when you are taking such events which are mutually exclusive, the resultant probability is P is equal to P1 into P2. Thereby, I am writing here the total number of ways to create a Schottky defect. A Schottky create Schottky defects, or we say n Schottky defects. W is equal to W1 into W2. Here the probability. Probability is not the addition, it is a multiplication. So I will now write here it as it is n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial whole square. So make a note of these steps quickly. So I hope you are able to see the board.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So make a note of those steps. So completed. Now, if you have a doubt, you can ask me.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in Frankel defect, sir, you told that neutrality is not disturbed.
In Frankel defects.
By electrical neutrality, sir, you mean that equilibrium is not disturbed?
No, equilibrium is different. I am not talking about equilibrium because it is equilibrium of energy, equilibrium of many thermodynamic parameters or thermal parameters will be there. We are doing this derivation, if this case, we are doing at equilibrium only. Soon we will get the equilibrium condition in this. Okay? But in
Sir,
case of Frankel defects, definition, or in case of Schottky defects, okay, the charge neutrality means that in general any object by itself is electrically neutral unless until you remove or add some charge to it. Yes? In
yes,
case
sir.
of Schottky defects, anions or cations or anions are missing means that it is having one-sided charge, or we say suppose negative ions or negative charges electrons are moved away from the crystal means it becomes more positive. Okay. So
Sir,
with respect to
when-
that only we are talking about charge neutrality.
sir,
Yeah.
but in the case when ions are moving inside the atom, sir, there is a point
No, remember, ions cannot move.
I mean
Only
atoms.
because in atoms also, ion is nothing but atom only with lack of one or two electrons. Ions are heavy. They don't move in ionic, unless it is an ionic crystal, ionic solid. If you apply electric field, then they might move. But that is ionic conduction.
Yes, sir.
We are
Yes.
not talking about ionic conduction here.
Yes, sir.
If it is
Understood.
electrolyte, ions will move. Those will move if you apply some voltage to it. Here we have not applied anything. Nothing is there. It's just crystal material we have taken it. Followed?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Thank you, sir.
W is this, and you call this as equation number 4. Okay. So, in terms of thermodynamics, you studied about thermodynamic quantities in our earlier classes like entropy, enthalpy, Gibbs free energy, yes, Helmholtz energy, internal energy. You studied all this. And also you studied isothermal process, adiabatic process, etc. Can anybody define what is entropy?
Sir, randomness in a
Ah,
compound.
The degree of randomness.
yeah, degree of disorder. Because entropy is a measurement for order or disorder. Yes? Do you think a perfect crystal is having low entropy or high entropy?
Low entropy, sir.
Low entropy.
Low entropy.
Yeah. Why?
Because they
A
are
stable one.
tightly packed.
They are perfectly arranged. They are ordered solids. There are ordered solids. So if I create defects, what happened to entropy?
Increases.
Increases.
Entropy So, but creation of defects will increase the randomness in the structure. That's all. Previously, it is
Yes, sir.
perfect crystal, regular arrangement, but creation of either Frankel or Schottky defects will increase the entropy. Okay, so entropy change will be there. Now, I want to go for that entropy. Can you define what is an entropy? Entropy delta S we define as
Q by T.
Q by,
Surface of a system.
T.
or we say delta Q by T, or delta T will write it as. Because you cannot measure the absolute entropy. We will measure only change in entropy. So we will write dq, ds is equal to dq, or dq is equal to tds we will write. That is TDS equations. In thermodynamics, while you studied chemistry, you might have studied this. Now, ds is equal to dq by dt, which is an entropy that represents randomness or order in a solid or disorder in a solid. That is definition is called as thermodynamic definition. But here I am not going to use this thermodynamic definition, but I use another definition. What is the definition is? Here we have regular periodic arrangement, and that regular periodic arrangement is disturbed here. Therefore, statistically, I talk about how many are arranged regularly, how many are not arranged regularly. Hence, we have another definition for entropy, which is called, okay, by the definition of entropy, or we say by statistical approach. What we call it as statistical entropy, given by Boltzmann. You heard about Boltzmann constant K? Did you heard about
Yes, sir.
Boltzmann constant? Yeah,
Yes,
same
sir.
Boltzmann we are using.
Yes, sir.
But he has given another definition, which is called statistical entropy, because we are now looking at statistically what are the arrangements. That is NCN, is statistical distribution it is actually. How the atoms are statistically distributed and how you are getting this, that is given by a definition, and which says that statistical definition of entropy S is equal to K log W. You see that? S is the entropy, K is the Boltzmann constant, logarithm of number of arrangements. If the number of arrangements more perfectly, and S is less. If this arrangement is different, and S will also change. Therefore, the regular arrangement or periodic or non-periodic arrangements of atoms within the crystalline solid decides the entropy, it are proportional. And by using mathematics, you can prove that S is equal to, or ds is equal to dq by dt is same as that of S is equal to k log omega. Even though the concepts and approaches are different, but both are same. They relate order or disorder in a given solid. Therefore, I write S is equal to K log W, where S is entropy. So I write now S entropy is equal to K times, where K is Boltzmann constant, W from equation 4. From equation 4, I am substituting W value as n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial square, where K is Boltzmann constant. K is Boltzmann constant. Boltzmann constant. Then I write here the same equation just like this. S is equal to 2k log n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial. Okay? And you name this equation as equation number 5. 2k log ni by n minus n factorial into n factorial. And I will write this as for case of the Helmholtz free energy F is equal to U minus Ts. You have this equation? Did you study about this equation, Helmholtz free energy? Helmholtz free energy according to thermodynamics is given by internal energy minus the thermal energy. This is Ts. F is equal to U minus Ts. Now I substitute values of F and Ts here. U is equal to N into P, the net increase in internal energy, minus T, T is T, S, S is from equation 5, 2k log n minus n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial. Okay. Because we have a square here, I have taken this as 2. 2k log ni n factorial by n minus n factorial into n. Thereby, we have F is equal to this equation.
Sir, is that the equation of Gibbs free energy?
Yeah, Gibbs free energy. But if you write Gibbs free energy, I should write delta G. It's also Gibbs free energy. Okay. If I write Gibbs free energy, I should use enthalpy H. Because capital G is Gibbs free energy and H is the energy, you can relate them in the similar way. Yes? It's Gibbs free energy. It's Gibbs free energy, Helmholtz free energy will have. Then I am not using those terms, therefore I am writing like this. So F is equal to, now we have N E, that is the internal energy, minus 2k T, where K is the Boltzmann constant, T is the temperature at which you are calculating this, and log of n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial. The same equation I have written here, and I call this as equation number 6. Now, as you said, one of you said that at equilibrium what happens? I am writing, okay, at equilibrium what is happening? At equilibrium, here equilibrium means I am taking thermal equilibrium at a given temperature, thermal equilibrium. Suppose say you know that the vacancies or Schottky defects are formed either during the manufacturing or crystallization process or due to thermal energy. Suppose the crystal is already prepared, therefore we will have some defects in it. But my intention is to calculate from that room temperature to any high temperature or at any given temperature how many defects are there. If I say thermal equilibrium, at suppose I'll take a constant temperature T equal to maybe 250, okay, or 300 K. At a 300 K, how many defects are there? We have to see. Once the temperature is fixed, up to that temperature reaching, the energy is supplied to the crystal, thereby one or two defects or maybe more defects were started forming. But once you keep the temperature constant, no further energy we are giving externally to the material or the crystal, therefore there will be no formation of defects. Or already formed defects may be regained and one more defects may be formed. Hence, at a thermal equilibrium, number of defects in a crystal remains constant. So that's what we say, the number of Schottky defects remains constant. When they remain constant, F remains constant because there is no change in N, no change in N. Capital N is always constant because we have taken 1 gram mole of a substance. It will always contain Avogadro number of atoms or mole. So therefore, N is already constant if you choose a material or a crystal by weight or by molar. Okay, so N is constant already. The only variation if I keep temperature constant is N, small n, because the energy to create a Schottky defect EP is also constant. This EP may be varying from 1 to 3 electron volts. The energy required to create a Schottky defect may be around 1 to 3 electron volts. So that is constant. Hence, I will now at thermal equilibrium, I am writing dou F by dou N. I am partially differentiating this because I have two variables. One variable is N, other variable is T, but T I am keeping constant. At a constant temperature, N remains constant. Therefore, the F remains constant. This must be equal to 0. Okay? At thermal equilibrium, this must be equal to 0. Because at equilibrium, no more new defects are formed. Our total number of defects remains constant. As the total number of defects are constant, the free energy is constant. Therefore, derivative of a constant is 0. So therefore, I have to now differentiate this and find it out. But to solve this equation further, we have a problem here. I have log n factorial, and also we have by n minus n factorial. So what is the value of log n factorial, or what is the value of log 100 factorial? Or do you know what is the value of log 1000?
So that's a very big value, sir.
Log 1000.
3, sir. 3.
But we don't have any definition for factorial of a logarithm or logarithm number for a factor. You cannot find, unless otherwise you use an approximation given by Stirling, which is called as Stirling approximation. Now we have to see what is Stirling approximation, and you need to solve this first before going this differentiation. Therefore, I write now, the log of n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial can be simplified first by using Stirling approximation. Stirling approximation. It's an approximation, but mathematically also you can prove this approximation works only, okay, n is very large. Because you know that n, the number of cations, anions, or number of atoms in a solid is very, very large, very huge. So it is in the order of 10 to the power 26 for a gram mole. So very, very large number. For large values of n only, you can use Stirling approximation. And I just conclude here by giving the definition of Stirling approximation, and I ask you to solve this at home. Okay? So Stirling approximation says that logarithm of n factorial, any number, if n is large, is equal to n log n minus n. Is the formula. You can mathematically prove it. You can ask any mathematics teacher to prove it. Log n factorial is equal to n log n minus n. So thereby, I can say here that if I write this, I write this as log of n factorial minus log of n minus n factorial minus of n factorial. I need to simplify this. Thereby, log of n factorial by n minus n factorial into n factorial is equal to log of n fact minus log of n minus n factorial minus log of small n factorial. If I want to simplify this, for this I will write n log n minus n. Minus of, I should write n log n, okay? This is n log n, minus of minus becomes plus n minus n, okay? Then I'll write for this is minus n log n, minus of minus plus n I'll get. Did you follow this? Anybody? Any doubt in this? I should write n log n minus n. So n log n minus n. For this is a factorial. N is now n minus n log n minus of minus, because I have a minus sign here, it will become plus. Thereby, I can cancel this minus n, this plus n, this minus n, this plus n. Now I stop here. And I ask you to simplify. This equation. Okay? And substitute this equation in equation 6. And you will get f value. And then differentiate it with respect to small n, or partially differentiate with respect to small n. Anybody? Did you have any doubt from this derivation? Can you do at home? Hello?